It's 2 p.m. Central African time. A very good afternoon to you and welcome to ENPC Market View. Today's show is powered by the Eswatini National Petroleum Company. Today on the show, we want to explore a major development in business finance with our in-house business journalist, Nelson Ndangamandla. The government of Taiwanese Women and Business Startup Microfinance Revolving Fund aims to support over 6,000 small and medium enterprises in the next 4 years. Margaret Grace Lulu, Cooperatives Advisor at the Taiwan Technical Mission, stated that since March 33, businesses have been funded with over 500,000 emalangeni from the 18 million emalangeni fund. That's 33 businesses. And in our last segment, we'll feature economist Saneless Bia for the latest updates on today's financial markets. Stay with us for an in-depth report on these significant developments. For now, let's start the show with looking at business news today. On our first story, the Minister for Finance, Honorable Neil Reichenbach, says government is hoping to raise 1.6 billion emalangeni in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange by the end of the year. Speaking during the official listing of the Eswatini in the National Johannesburg Stock Exchange, the minister said this will help the country raise money for capital projects as well as meet its infrastructure development needs.
The listing on the JSE represents a key milestone for the Kingdom of Eswatini and provides an opportunity to introduce itself to the international investment community. This program will help us diversify our funding sources, contribute to regional economic integration initiatives, and raise the necessary capital required for us to meet our infrastructure and development needs. Listing on the South African market demonstrates our confidence in the market, given our participation in the common monetary area and strong economic links with South Africa. The decision to expand our sources of funding into the South African market was made because this market is very deep and has a diverse set of investors with different investment horizons and risk appetites. The sheer size and complexity of the Republic of South Africa market encompasses all market segments, including investors who are willing to purchase unsecured senior debt securities which have similar credit ratings to that of Eswatini. Furthermore, the South African Rand and the Lilangeni are pegged 1-to-1. The choice to issue in Rand eliminates foreign exchange risk associated with external financing which are denominated in other currencies, such as the US dollar, euro, pound, or yen.
The governor of the Central Bank of Eswatini, Dr. Phil Mnisi, says the bank supports government in the listing.
The Central Bank of Eswatini remains committed to our participation in the common monetary area as this facilitates price and financial stability. With the free flow of capital within the area, promote Eswatini as an investment destination and facilitate an increase in the flow of capital to our beautiful kingdom. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to express my appreciation to the government, to the governor of the Reserve Bank of South Africa and the CEO of the Prudential Authority who approved our request to tap into the South African financial markets.
The head of origination and deals at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange commends government for the listing.
At the JSE, we commend the listing as it shines a spotlight not only on the nation's dedication to financial innovation, but underscores its emergence as a prominent player in the region's capital markets. As the largest exchange on the continent, we are honored to be identified by the government to facilitate its development and serve as a launchpad for its economic growth.
Government has been able to raise 400 million emalangeni from the Johannesburg Stock Exchange since listing 4 billion rands last year. Government listed the bond as an alternative means to raise capital to support the country's budget. For ENPC Market View, Nelson Ndangamandla, visuals from Central Bank.
130 loans valued at 36.6 million emalangeni have been issued under the small-scale enterprise loan guarantee scheme housed under the Central Bank of Eswatini since the relaunch of the loan guarantee schemes in September 2021. Now, this is contained under the National Financial Inclusion Strategy 2023 to 2028, which was launched by the Minister for Finance, Honorable Neil Reichenberg.
The strategy states that government has two loan guarantee schemes to assist small to medium enterprises in accessing credit. The Export Credit Guarantee Scheme caters for export trade, whilst the Small-Scale Enterprise Loan Guarantee Scheme focuses on production for domestic markets. According to government, the schemes help to de-risk small-medium enterprises, especially in the absence of collateral. Government says the schemes are underutilized, partly because the business community feels the requirements are too stiff. The Small-Scale Enterprise Loan Guarantee Scheme was relaunched in the year 2021, culminating in the inclusion of 4 selected non-banking financial institutions with a significant increase in uptake from 32, valued at 6.8 million emalangeni in March 2021, to 130 loans totaling to 36.6 million emalangeni as of March 2023. The strategy, according to government, also seeks to help small and medium enterprises and farmers to be more productive and resilient. This priority area entails helping the country's farmers and entrepreneurs to be more productive, growth-oriented, and resilient in the face of various shocks that may arise. The Minister of Finance further states that there is a specific need to widen options for micro, small and medium enterprises and farmers to access finance and other financial services that support productivity. The ministry has also noticed that there are overlaps between different programs and agencies, proposing that the existing government funding schemes be reviewed and aligned to enhance synergies and uptake. This may involve adjusting the application and claim process and getting financial institutions to develop new products and models. For ENPC Market View, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminko Sinzinisa Mbabane.
And that is how we wrap up our news segment. Let's go for an interview. We connect with Nelson Dlangamandla, our business journalist, shortly after the break.
Sabatandi ukuthi njengalokhu
Sibili sive sitikhulumeni.
Welcome back. The Women in Business Startup Microfinance Revolving Fund by the government of Taiwan targets over 6,000 small and medium enterprises in the next 4 years. This has been said by the cooperatives advisor at the Taiwan Technical Mission, Margaret Grace Lulu, stating that since March this year, 33 businesses have been funded with over 500,000 of the 18 million emalangeni fund.
Our first disbursement was in March, on the 15th of March. In fact, the whole revolving fund is 18 million. So far we have disbursed to 33 beneficiaries, and it's not only women alone, it's also men as well. But we are focusing on micro, small and medium businesses. Our main focus is solely to reach out to those women that they do not have enough privileges in terms of borrowing maybe from the banks or any other financial institutions. So what we did, in fact, we assisted the women to establish their own savings and credit cooperative society, which is known as Guyendega Savings and Credit Cooperative. So in that way, they are even able now to save and and also borrow from their SACCO. But then the Swaziland government and the Taiwanese ambassador, they appointed Kuyendega to be the one that is going to be dispersing the funds. So it's much easier now for the women to get the funds. So the total amount that we can issue out to an individual is 25,000 Malangan, since it is a micro loan.
Quite a lot of money there being talked about. Nelly, welcome to the program. Very good afternoon to you. Let's get into it. I want us to first and foremost acknowledge, the number that has benefited from this fund. Magedludu is speaking about supporting over 6,000 small and medium enterprises in the next 4 years of Eswatini. How significant is that in the Eswatini economy?
Thank you so much, Sfiso Ngivusele nembukeli we-ENPC Market View. Lokhu kumqoka kakhulu because nasibuka i-financial inclusion strategy iyachaza kwekuthi ngabo 2017 bekukhanza ukuthi 69% walabo labanemabhizinisi bede kahle vele lapho khona baboleka khona imali. So this is government's way of saying let us give you some startup and funding khona sonke sive khona kahle ukuthi sifinyelele etimalini. So kumqoka kakhulu because wonke umuntu naloyo lo mhlawumbe locecesheke kancane njengoba laba labaniketwa le mali lena labaningi babo ngilese i-Taiwan Technical Mission ibaqeqeshile kuma cooperatives nekuthi how do you handle money, how do you handle your bookkeeping wenda njani kuze ukuthi business yakho ibe founded on level ground ungadikhanzi ukuthi nale mali lesithi sikuboleke yona awusakhona ukuthi uyisebenzise kahle.
And I love the fact that you inquired particularly about the present moment, because nangimlalela ukhuluma ngokuthi about 33 businesses, 33 plus businesses have already been supported since the month of March this year.
Yes.
Talk to me about, maybe some examples maybe of these businesses before we get into my next question. Yeah.
Business lathi debawa fande kakhulu ngebusiness ya mobile money, which people are taking keen interest on. Ngiwe ma feedlots nabo poultry ngilawo nje lawabale kakhulu ukuthi ngiwo labawabukile ikakhulu bamfu labakhombisa yona i-interest go.
I think me and you were discussing just last week about this sudden surge of the interest lekhona emabhizinisini etekulima. Why do we see so much interest kutekulima? I mean, we can justify it for many reasons, but I want to hear from you if we should really be clapping hands for so much, so much in terms of the surge in agricultural businesses, but not so much in ICT businesses.
Lengubonako kule last week Minister for Finance ulonche i-financial inclusion strategy. Uyachaza kakhulu from time to time in the strategy kwekuthi la kangwane ikakhulu sidependa kakhulu kuyo i-farming, almost 60 to 70% lesikwendako ikakhulu nasemakhaya it's farming, but we need to commercialize it. So uyasho ukuthi vele they need to be capacitated sive sakangwane kwekuthi sikhone kuyithatha le farming yaso bese siyayenda iba ibhizinisi. Nawungakhumbula kahle mbukeli nawe Sifiso kwekuthi vele silive sisengafiki nje ekuthi khiciteleni That is why the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Agriculture is really working hard to ensure ukuthi siba nekudla lokwanele phinze siyakhona ukuthi commercialize, because that is what we are doing best. Most people are doing the farming but at a very small scale.
If we talk about microfinance loans, what we have seen, at least, we can make typical examples like the Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund, they always have a problem when it comes for repayment. I just wonder, is this a conversation that you had with Magedludu, and how are they planning to devise strategies to make sure that there is a repayment, because le mali has to revolve?
Yes, Sifiso lenzaba leyo sesikhulume ngayo kakhulu vele indzaba lengiyibutile kwekuthi ukhanza ukuthi vela basakhona bantu ukubhadala nineke ndaweni kanjani bakhulume ngayo indzaba yekuthi there are mentors that we are having labatawuqinisekisa kwekuthi bahamba naye lo muntu as asenda le business baphindze ke bayichaza nendzaba yekuthi sisaqhubeka lesikhwama batawuqinisekisa ukuthi loyo loyithethe le mali njengoba achazile make Grace ukuthi ngeke nje nasithi na imali ithathe, we need commitment from you lapho khona utawufaka 20% wakho so that you'll be committed to paying, but they are promising ukuthi they will handhold the business owners in order to make sure ukuthi bayakhona kuyibhadala back le mali. Lokunye lakuchazile indzaba yekuthi lesikhwama lesi si-insured, meaning ukuthi noma ngabe so uyashona ukanti uthethe imali yalesikhwama itawukhona leyo mali ukuthi iphindze ibuye, because the intention here Sifiso nembukele ekhaya ukuthi le mali igcine isita abamfu labaningi, kungabi nje isikhwama sa 4 to 5 years lesi, kube isikhwama lesitawugcina njengoba kuthiwa i-revolving fund lesitawugcina sita emaswati lamaningi. So they have taken all the measures they need to in order to ensure ukuthi imali lebolekiwe kulesikhwama njengoba abasebenzisana nahulumende igcina iyabuya itokhona kusitala amanye emaswati.
I mean, we've spoken about, ukuthi nasitadisha nje just the demographics of people who really need, these type of funds, this type of loans. We always like to study the climate, particularly the economic climate. Have you maybe looked at some of, the most undeserved and high potential entrepreneurs, especially in rural areas whereby bangasho baka Taiwan ukuthi yes, labantu lesibaniketa le timali siyabuka ukuthi vele these are the people that urgently need le mali kubakhokhene engcenye starts in poverty.
Sifiso, i-Taiwan Technical Mission laba 6,000 nje babodva laba leta uqala ngabo kumbe ukuthi bathole le mali ngilabo laba trainiwe laba sebanayo le capacity ye business, and bobani laba, it's the women at grassroots level bukhanze ukuthi bomake laba semakhaya nabo babe bakhona bafocus kakhulu kubomakeleni, because I financial inclusion strategy iyasho ukuthi 65% wema SMEs are owned abomake bese bobabe ba owner lo 35%, and iyachaza ukuthi lo 65% kunawo ma business la ngathi awasiko sophisticated, and 20% of those businesses vele awasiko ema business la registered formally kulabo make. Ukhanza ke ukuthi bobabe kubo 35% ba registered formally, so that is why they are concentrating on women at grassroots level. Bayaba trainer cooperatives ukuthi if it happens that you get financing from government, if it happens that you get financing from us, this is how you should handle the money.
Maybe siphume kancane kule fund itself.
Yes.
And maybe just look at and appreciate the relationship that we have with our allies in Taiwan. Just recently, we saw His Majesty the King visiting Taiwan for the official inauguration of the Prime Minister there. Prime Minister there. I want to hear your sentiments on some of the many programs that they have. Maybe we don't really need to mention each one of them, but maybe for the president, a correction there, for the inauguration of the president of Taiwan. The importance of our multilateral relationship with Taiwan. I mean, they surely look like our best friend at this present moment.
I-Taiwan isite etinzaweni letahlukene isitile ukuthi ifake mandi etinzaweni letahlukene la eveni isitile kubogesi. They are giving scholarships to emaswati ukuthi ahambe aye khona eTaiwan ayowenda timfo letahlukene. Kubo Taiwan ICDF kukhona lapho ikhona ina bomake velele basitako le focus kibo kwekuthi bakhone kusukumisa baphinze baqale emabhizinisi lapho khona sibabonile bomake bakhathi insipho bakhathi imfo letahlukene exameni kwekuthi nabo babe nendlela yekutiphilisa. Kunengi lapho khona iTaiwan ilisite khona live leSwatini in order to ensure ukuthi sive siyakhona kutiphilisa nalana indlela yabo yekuthi bakhone ukuthi sive semaswati sibe financially included. Ngithanda ngiyibuka nje yona National Financial Inclusion Strategy ngabona ukuthi la kubo 2022 bebang 600,000 sive semaswati lebe sinawo lama accounts emabhangi. Mobile money kangisakhulumi over 800,000 ngekusho kwayo le report, but ukhanza ukuthi iyachaza vele lokho ukuthi we don't have access to credit. So this is why Taiwan and other stakeholders have decided ukuthi no, asesingene sibuke lenye indlela yokuthi sibasita kanjani kwekokuthi lo accessa le mali kube melula kungabi naleti ngcabekelwane letine.
Yeah, it's quite a lot, Nelly. By the way, Gle Fund is it's 18 million in Malagan, and we've only, spoken about just a little bit of the fund. But Magel Lulu, kubekile wachaza ngayo le fund akesimuve.
1.5% interest on the outstanding balance, which makes it more easy and more comfortable for the women entrepreneurs to repay the loan. There are a number of businesses that they are involved in. A number of them are doing broiler farming. We also have those who are doing vegetable farming. And we also have those who are doing deco, poultry, and feedlots, and also goat farming. So those are the types of businesses they are applying for. And I think we have one or two which are doing clothing. This project, since it started in 2024, it will continue up to 2027. So since it is a revolving fund, we are hoping that the women will be able to repay so that it could be a lasting fund for the women in Eswatini. In our first project, where we were doing capacity building, we trained over 6,000 women. And we are hoping that every one of them is going to come up and have access to this fund and be able to do their businesses. We'll be happy if all the women that we trained could come up and apply for this loan and be able to grow their businesses.
All right, it's 20 minutes after 2. Let's go for a net break. We connect with Sanellis Bia, our economist, to look at today's financial markets shortly.
sabatandi ukuthi njengalokhu
sivile sive sithi khulumeni.
And welcome back. Let's welcome Sanellis Bia virtually. He joins us through a Zoom link to discuss today's financial markets. Sanele, welcome to the program. A very good afternoon to you. I'm seeing the Nasdaq Composite is up by 1.10% today, leading up the U.S. markets. What factors do you think are driving this significant gain compared to the more modest increases in the DJIA and the S&P 500?
Thank you, Ngumalo, and good afternoon to the viewer. So basically what we are seeing there is, markets are trying to rebound and trying to rebase interest rate expectations. But we are seeing also there is still that a bit of a hawkish type of stance. But we cannot forget the NVIDIA story, which actually improved my earnings, by sevenfold, and so that actually bodes well for the Nasdaq and those other composite indices. So that's what we are looking at, and we are seeing markets trying to come back in the US, and we are still awaiting inflation data to come out this week, which again posits to be a much better outlook. And then when you look in terms of consumer expectations regarding inflation, the consumers expect inflation to be relatively okay. So in terms of their expectations, they're okay. So that's what we are looking at. That's what's driving that type of growth in the US at the current moment.
The more modest increases in the Dow Jones Industrial as well as the S&P 500, is that the same, interpretation there as well?
Yes, no, it's the same interpretation, but markets are still trading cautiously, but there is a bit of optimism. So there is that bit of caution to say what is going to happen with the price, with the interest rates. And what we are seeing is the US, there is still that a bit of that hawkishness coming from the Federal Reserve Bank in terms of whether or not they are going to start cutting interest rates anytime soon. So that's what the markets are trying to price in, so they're dilly-dallying around that point, But the inflation data and the consumer data coming out this week will give a much more firmer indication.
Right. What is the data in the European markets going to tell us, having showed mixed results today, with the FTSE 100 down by 0.26%, while the DAX and the CAC 40 show slight increases? What could be the underlying reasons for these indices?
In the Eurozone, if you just follow the news, you will realize that Europe, the talk around the exchange rates in the Eurozone is one where it's more accommodative. It's one that signals and shows that, we are going to cut interest rates. And the European Central Bank has come out to say there is a lot of scope to cut interest rates. And that actually sent very good news to the market. That's why you are seeing the DAX and the CAC 40 doing, performing relatively better. And, inflation figures are due to come out this week. And yeah, that's what the markets are trying to pace with. And then if you look into London, you will see that, the FTSE has lost a bit of those points there, but that's also on the inflation outlook. And also, there is that elections fever going into the UK markets at this present moment. So that's what we have priced into the markets right now.
Yeah, quite an interesting divergence there in the European markets. Let's look at the Asian markets. I'm seeing some strong performance there, particularly the Hang Seng Index as well as the Shanghai Composite Index. Both are up by over 1%. Can you explain the key drivers behind these robust gains?
So going into Asia Pacific, what we are seeing there is in China, we are always watching out for this story, the housing bubble, the mortgage bubble. So right now, what we've seen is, the banks in China have actually come up with a much more friendlier stance to actually buy. So it is hoped that they will push quite a number of the properties off the markets, and then that's going to breathe life into that struggling mortgage sector, the property sector there. So markets are responding to that. And also, we've seen China pumping into around 47 billion. $47 billion to just try to ensure that they boost their blue chip semiconductors manufacturing within mainland. So, when we are seeing that movement, trying to really localize the production of semiconductors, so that one gives a lot of headlines to the market and a lot of headwind. And we've also seen, the biggest electronic vehicle in China also making a bit of sales. So, yeah, there is quite a lot of movements in mainland China and also within the Hong Kong, the sub-region. And as well, we are seeing Japan doing relatively well because they're putting up good monitoring for their inflation targeting, post the moving from the negative zone.
It's quite interesting what EVs are doing in the car industry, Mr. Sibiya. Despite, I want us to look at the JSE, because we are seeing that despite a relatively flat performance in the JSE All Share Index, with a slight decline, by the way, of 0.02%, how do you see the current trends in the South African markets affecting investor sentiment and maybe regional economic stability?
Thank you, Mr. Ngumalo. So what we are seeing there is, we are 2 days from the election now. So the markets are really pricing that in and trying to see and dilly-dallying around that. But in terms of macroeconomics, the macroeconomic data coming from South Africa is one of a bit that's showing a bit strong performance. And then the question now that I think markets are dealing with is, what is going to happen post May 29? Are we going to go back to situations of serious load shedding and all of those issues? So markets are really watching out the elections coming up this week. And as well, we are seeing the performance of metals, doing relatively good. We are seeing gold has inched up a bit, so that has actually somehow showed up the markets. But what the story that we should really be looking out for in the South African markets, the fact that it's really trading at a very high level, just on a touch to that that 80,000 mark, which it touched quite a few days ago. So we're hoping that, once the elections are gone and, election money is out of the markets, but if the new government is going to have more market-friendly policies, that should actually spur markets up further.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the fact that we don't have enough time. The Eswatini Stock Exchange has remained unchanged. Maybe you want to tell us what the reasons behind that are, but maybe also give us, an overview of commodities today that have seen an upward movement.
Thank you, Mr. Ngumalo. So what we are seeing there with the Southern stock exchanges, our stock exchange is one where investors usually just buy to keep up shares, and we've just moved post earnings session, so we do expect activity to be a bit slow there. And then when we move to commodities, we can see gold is gaining a bit, and at the same time oil has gained a bit. So what we are seeing there with gold, the story is we are seeing those improvements in the markets, but still there is not much being said around exchange the interest rates, and that is why gold has gained a bit this week today. And we can see crude oil also running up a bit. That's actually due to stronger consumer sentiment, and if interest rates do go down eventually, then you do expect a bit of a demand. So that's why we are seeing that movement happening there. And then moving into our currencies, we can see that our Lilangeni has gained strength against the dollar, against all major currencies, and that's purely because we are going into the election in South Africa. There's that election region. The metals are doing well, and that's somehow trade shifting up, and so shifting from those advanced markets to our domestic market. So we are seeing that playing into the currencies today, and we hope the story will be maintained even post the elections. When we have new data coming in.
Yeah, Mr. Spear, thank you so much for your time. Always appreciate your insights. We've come to the end of our show today. Thank you so much for tuning in to ENPC Market View today. Tune in again tomorrow for another episode of Market View. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.